All right, ladies and gentlemen, it says it, so we are live. Here we go, boys and girls. We are going to crank this thing up. We didn't do anything last week. I missed you, Mitch. I know all of our fans missed us as well. We'll get this thing going before we get too sulky. We'll do the walk-up music. Maybe. Stop laughing over there. Okay,
now
there we go.
just got to miss it a little longer. All right.
20 seconds start now.
All right.
Ten seconds remaining. 5, 4, 3.
Hey, it was a little early, but that's all right. I couldn't remember when I was going to smack the button. I guess better early than late. So, yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me turn this background music down just a little bit. All right, on tonight's show, who are the leading NFL Pro Bowlers as far as the votes go on the first round? We're going to talk about each and every one of them. Did MLB agent Scott Boras learn his lesson from last year? That'll be one of our topics as well. Mitch and I are going to have a spirited debate about who should win the Heisman. I'm sure it's coming. Josh Allen and his month of December. It's pretty good, but can it be better? We're going to talk about that. The golden at-bat in Major League Baseball. If you haven't heard this rule that's been kicking around at the winter meetings, we'll explain it to you. We'll tell you exactly what it means, and then we'll tell you if we like it or not. That's the golden at-bat in MLB baseball. Is LeBron James actually human? We may prove it with the stat that I got for you here. LeBron James might actually be human. The 6 college football games. We'll look at each one. We'll get betting odds from Mitch Moneybags and Middlebrook. And then I'll tell you who I think is actually going to win the game despite what the odds might be. We're going to do the results from the 2024 MLB drug testing. Yes, they are public. Yes, we have the results. And yes, you're probably going to be surprised at some of them. And then, of course, Mitch, the big thing that I want to get into, we've already got double-digit people with us. We thank them. We are a little bit behind. We apologize for that. But we're also going to talk about – no, I'm not ready.
20 seconds.
I was ready 5 minutes ago. Okay, calm down. All right. Let me pull the plug on that. All right. So, doing things a little different. I wanted to bring in a new computer system and a new camera system and all that good stuff. It looked good, but it didn't work. So we've gone back to the old stuff. Just me and Mitch and all of you guys. We appreciate you all with us. And the other thing that we're really going to look into, and I think Mitch and I are really going to have a spirited debate on this one, is how do we teach kids to win with dignity and respect in sports? With all the flag planting and everything else that went on this weekend, I think Mitch and I may differ on this a little bit, but you know, as we've said before, I'm the old get off your lawn guy, and Mitch is the new age mustache man over there. So we'll see how all this works out, and we'll do it for all of you guys here with us on the Sports Truth. Mitch, how's your last couple weeks been, buddy?
Not bad. Not too bad. Excited to be back, that's for sure. Had a nice little Thanksgiving break, but yeah, I'm excited to be back. Good.
So am I, man. So am I. Glad to have you back. I know last week we tried to do this with my boy Ricky from We Like SportsPC.com. It didn't work out very well. You think this week was a little bit of a disaster, and we were about 5-7 minutes late. You should have seen last week. It was awful. The only people that could hear ourselves talking were Ricky and I. Nobody else. So we ended up not doing anything. I do want to make sure that Ricky, if he's listening, I'll get him on the show soon. We'll be able to talk some sports with him. In fact, let me give everybody who's with us right now a little bit of a preview. I want to try to do a National League Central showdown because I'm the Reds guy. Ricky's the Reds guy. We got Mitch, who's the Milwaukee Brewers guy over here. And I don't know if you guys saw the show a few weeks ago where we had the two gentlemen from the Dallas Sports Sons of Star podcast. The son there is a Cubs guy, so we're going to get all of us together, and we're going to talk about the the National League Central. All right.
Nice.
That'll be nice. I'm really looking forward to it, buddy. I really, really am. I think it'll be a great time. The only two people that know about it are me and you, by the way. Nobody else knows yet, but we'll clue them in on everything, and they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That'll be a fun one.
Okay, so Mitch, I want you to get everything ready here for who are the Heisman right now. Okay, we're going to do that in just a second.
Yep.
I'm also looking through my notes from last week here. There we go. The last three Heisman winners, the last three Heisman running back winners. All right, let's get this a little more specific. So in 2015, Derrick Henry won. He had 1,458 yards and 19 touchdowns. In 2009, Mark Ingram won the Heisman Trophy as a running back. He had 1,292 yards and 10 touchdowns. And way back in 2005, he won it, got it taken away from him for a while, got it back, right? That would be Reggie Bush. He had 1,104 yards and 11 touchdowns. That was back in 2005. So it was Bush in 2005. It was Ingram in 2009. It was Derrick Henry in 2015. And now here we are, 2024, with Ashton Gentry, who has got way over 2,000 yards and now has 30 touchdowns. Yet, I'm not sure if he's the favorite to win the Heisman, at least by odds. Tell me, Mitch, who are the top four guys, odds maker-wise, to win the Heisman? Then we're going to talk about who we are each going to look at as far as our own Heisman voting if we had a vote.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you're seated because I think this is really going to surprise you. I'll just start with the odds here. We have Travis Hunter in first, favorite to win the Heisman by a wide margin. Minus 6,000 is the line for Travis Hunter to walk home with the Heisman this year. Second, no surprise there, Ashton Gentry at plus 1,600. Then you got Dylan Gabriel in third at plus 30,000.
Yeah, he has no chance, by the way.
Yeah, and then Shador at plus 40,000. Even further, even less of a chance than Dylan Gabriel.
No, go ahead. I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I'm just, you're right. I'm glad I'm sitting down because I'm a little surprised at somebody.
Yep, this is such a non-competitive race for the Heisman. That's it. That's all we got. It's just not even, Vegas isn't even really giving anyone a shot. They're just saying Travis Hunter is going to walk away with it.
Yeah, I don't think I like this at all. Couple of different things. You're going to see me do some things over here on the side because of all the difficulties, I'm not as ready as I wanted to be here, so I'm going to try to get myself ready. Okay, so explain this to me because I'm not the gambling guy, first of all. How big of a lead is that for Hunter in first place?
It's insane, unprecedented, honestly. I don't think that anyone has had this kind of a lead in Heisman, at least through Vegas. Just to put it into perspective, minus 6,000 odds. If you bet $1,000, you win $16 on that $1,000 bet. You win $16. You got to bet.
So I have to risk $1,000 to win $16?
16. Yep. That means if you want to win $100 on your bet, you have to bet $6,000 on Travis Hunter to win the Heisman.
And then if he doesn't win, you lose $6,000.
You lose $6,000, just like that.
And if he does win, I get a whole $100.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a very good investment.
No.
All right, but then doesn't that also mean that these other guys are a really big reach and they're big payoffs?
Yeah, it does. It does. So if you bet, say, $50 on Genty, you win 800. If you bet 100, you win 1,600. If you bet, $10, you win 160. So it's good return, but I mean, Vegas knows what they're doing. Vegas knows what they're talking about. So anytime Vegas is seeing somebody put money on anyone but Travis Hunter, they're just taking it and running with it. I mean, they're not ever planning on paying that out because they know, however they know, that Travis Hunter is going to be the Heisman.
I don't want to take anything away from Travis Hunter because he is a really good athlete. Obviously plays both sides of the ball, right? And that's what's getting him all this attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure if he's my Heisman guy. In fact,
No.
I'm just going to say it. He's not my Heisman guy. Is he your Heisman guy?
Honestly, I don't know if I've shifted on this because of all of the love and how clear everyone thinks it is that he's the Heisman or not. Because I completely agree. I don't want to take anything away from the guy. He's had an incredible season and doing what no one else is doing on a college football field right now. But there's another guy on here that's doing things that potentially by the end of next week, we could say no one has ever done on a college football field, ever. And that's Genty. And I don't understand how this isn't at least a close race. If it was a close race and Travis Hunter got the edge a little bit, I would understand it a lot more than I do right now. But this huge gap and Travis Hunter just basically already having the Heisman just doesn't make sense to me. I really don't get it.
No, I'm with you. And not only do I think, so I think Genty should be number one.
Mm-hmm.
I will put Hunter at number two over any of those other guys. I don't even think Gabriel should be in this conversation, to be very honest with you.
I agree.
But I think we're leaving the name out, and I know you know who I'm going with because I put it in our show notes. If he gets 134 more yards in the Big 12 tournament game on Saturday, he will reach 2,000 for the season, and that's ASU's Cam Scatterboot. Shouldn't he at least be in the top five? I mean, shouldn't he at least take Gabriel's spot and be in the top 4 or 5?
Well, I mean, it's as simple as this. Look at the list of guys you just named for the last 3 Heisman running back winners.
Mm-hmm.
He's got more yards than all those guys. I don't know what his touchdowns look like this year, but he's got plenty more yards than any of those guys.
Right.
What was it? Mark Ingram or Henry was the closest.
Henry was the closest at 1458. Yes.
Yep. He's got, I mean, even if he doesn't get a single yard this next week, he's still got 500 yards over Henry. It doesn't, I mean, I don't get it. I think a lot of it comes down to the Heisman voters just being out of touch. And I think a lot of it comes down to they choose their storyline before the season starts and they stick to it.
Yeah, and I mean, ASU was picked to finish last in the division, as you know. Every time I listen to a game on Fox, they say it like 40 times during the broadcast,
Mm-hmm.
right? And yes, they were, and now all of a sudden they're first in the Big 12, and now they're going to the Big 12 title game. And I'm going to make another prediction. You ready? I know he needs 134 yards to get 2,000. Scadaboo's going to get 250 yards or more in this game on Saturday. And that's because, we'll talk about the 6 games here in just a moment, but Iowa State can't stop the run. They're really good at defending the pass. They're 36th in the country at defending the pass. I'm giving away all my notes for the 6 games here in a second. But they're 96th at stopping the run. And Tyson Ross, I don't know if you know this or not, Tyson Ross is not going to play. Tyson Ross has a collarbone issue. I don't know if it's broken or not. They haven't come out and said it. And I think they haven't come out and said it because they don't want people to have the edge when they go into this 12-team college playoff, right? So that leads me to believe that it's probably a significant injury, and he is more than. I'll save that for here in a few moments when we talk about the 6 games, how much that means to ASU. But I just don't understand why.
I really don't either. I mean, just looking at the odds don't make any sense to me at all. 3 out of 4 of these guys make a lot of sense to me. Honestly, I think Shedeur should be given probably a better shot than he has right now too. But Dylan Gabriel doesn't really fit in with the rest of these guys, in my opinion, this season. I completely agree. Scadaboo should be in there, and I also completely agree he's gonna easily pass 2,000 yards. I mean, he's gonna get 134 yards in the first half. Like he's easily getting that. I just really don't understand the bigger question that I think this raises, and that's really scary, is if Genty can't win the Heisman with these numbers, potentially breaking Barry Sanders' all-time rushing record in college football, will we ever see a running back Heisman winner again? Will we ever see a season from a running back like this? And if we will, is that even going to be enough, or is this just now a quarterback award, basically? I mean, outside of Travis Hunter, is it always just going to be quarterbacks and one guy that maybe does plays both sides of the ball?
Yeah, this is crazy, and we're going to talk about this with the NFL implications here. Excuse me, once we get to our NFL segment. We're going to tie all this together really nice, and it's going to be like Christmas time. We're going to put a nice little bow on top of this here before it's all said and done. So after we wrap it all up. On this Heisman talk, I want to ask you a couple more questions, and then we're going to jump to another subject here. So if the team that the finalist plays on makes their conference final game, do you give that guy more of an edge over the other people that are in the running? Or is this just a single person award?
No, I definitely do. I think a part of it is team success. I think you can still be a winner of the Heisman without your team making it to your conference championship. I think it's in rare cases you can, but I don't think, it's not going to ever go to a non-bowl eligible team. You're not going to have a guy that's, on a 5-6 team get the Heisman because it hasn't translated to success and wins. Sure, he could have 4,000 yards on a season. If his team doesn't have a winning record, he's not going to be the Heisman. And that speaks to, elevating your team to a certain level of play that they need to be to really impress people.
Right, and now we've got this college football 12-team playoff for the first time, right? So then if we're going to say it, and you basically just said it, I would say the same thing if I had a vote for the Heisman. Obviously, neither one of us don't, because nobody in any NFL circle whatsoever knows who we are. But if I had one, I would give a little bump to the guy who makes their college championship game, and I would give another bump to them if they made it into the top 12 playoffs, right? Would you do the same, Mitch?
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I think that's why we see Dylan Gabriel up there. He's getting that number 1 bump for sure. For what he's done for Oregon this year. I think that's really why we see him up in the top 4.
I'm not sure if it's that, or I kind of think it's because I believe if I remember correctly, and you guys can comment. Comments are up there in the very top right-hand corner of the screen. I believe you get up there, you click that comment button, you leave us one, and we'll put you up here on the screen as long as you're still talking about the same subjects that Mitch and I are. I think they're doing this for Gabriel because he is, I believe, a 5th-year senior, right? He has played football for quite a while. and they're trying to say, hey, if you continue to come back and you don't go to the NFL, we're going to put you in the top for the Heisman voting. I honestly think he's almost getting fifth-year senior sympathy votes.
Yeah, actually, that's a fair point. I think they want to incentivize guys to do that, and other people are watching other than just Gabriel, so they probably think if they're on the cusp of their fourth year, thinking about declaring for the draft and being a late round draft pick or mid round draft pick, and between that and coming back and potentially winning the Heisman next year, I think that definitely speaks to those kind of guys.
All right, 2 more points, and I want to jump off this subject because I really want to get to the next one. I think it's going to be very interesting. We're going to talk about how kids can win and how they should win. All right, we're going to get on to that here in just a moment. But do you think that if Gentry doesn't win the Heisman, that he'll even go in the first round of the NFL draft?
I think he will. I still think he will. The one, honestly, it's not the Heisman that makes me wonder if he's going to be a first rounder. It's the build, being 5'9" and 215, I think is what he's listed at. I think that might hurt him more than anything. I mean, he's squashed all my concerns with that in any size questions. But I do still think that, I mean, we see it every year with quarterbacks, at least the hand size. You could have a great NFL quarterback or a great college quarterback, but the second they get to the combine and they measure their hands and it's a quarter inch too small or whatever it may be, you see everybody freaking out about it. So I think they get pretty nitpicky with that stuff, and I think that could hurt them more than anything. But I think I would like to think that anybody with a college or a football mind could see that Gentry is clearly worth a first round pick if he can be what he has been in Boise State this year.
My prediction for that is that he is going to fall down to around probably somewhere between 20 and 30 pick.
Yeah.
And some team that's down there that could really use a running back, like maybe the New York Giants or somebody like that, just to throw a team out there that needs a player, will be able to snatch him up, and he'll make a really big difference in that club going forward. I do want to point this out to you, and then we're going to jump to our next subject. I want to show you just what a year can do. I saw this stat a few weeks ago. I was going to put it in last week's show. Obviously, we didn't have a show last week because somebody couldn't get his stuff together and produce the show. The quarterback class in 2020 was this: Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Herbert, Love, Hurts. All those guys came out in that 2020 draft. The 2021 quarterback draft was Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Lance, right, that now plays as the third string for the Cowboys, right? Justin Fields, Daniel Jones. Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had the first round pick in 2020, you were golden. You were going to get somebody. If you had the first round pick in 2021, you were in trouble and you weren't getting anybody.
Yep. Yeah,
the
best of those guys is a solid backup that won some games this year. I mean, that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. All right, man, I didn't put all my notes on here on purpose. I've got some stuff here on the side. I think we're going to have a nice spirited debate about this. With everything that's been going on in college football over the last week, on Saturday, you had numerous teams, after they beat a team on their opposing field, they went out and they planted flags. In ASU's case, they went out and stuck a pitchfork in the middle of the in the middle of the field, right? So here's what I'm going to ask you. You see some of the notes and where we're going to go with on this. How do we teach kids to win with dignity and respect in sports? Mitch, for once, I'm going to give you the floor first to let you talk.
I mean, it starts young. It starts early and often. You got to teach these kids exactly dignity and respect for their opponents. I mean, there has to be mutual respect between everyone on the field. You cannot like the guys, you can hate them if you want to, but there has to be some kind of respect. And if you don't respect your opponents, I mean, you get what we saw this weekend, and it was a great rivalry week in college football, and a lot of great games and a lot
Games
of
were great. That's right.
yeah. And I mean, it was almost universal that there was going to be some kind of scuffle at the end of these games. And I don't really know what it comes down to, but to me, the one kind of comparison I could make of all of them, or what they looked like to me, was a bunch of kids out there that are making a bunch of money from NIL that are going out there and crying like babies. So I don't know if that's a part of it, but I mean, it seems like if any of those guys had the ability to lose with dignity and respect shown for their opponent, they threw it all out the window this week.
Yes. Would you let an opposing team go out and plant their flag in the middle of your home field, whether you won the game or lost the game?
I think this is a tough one, because my initial reaction is no, I wouldn't let them do that. But then you see what happened to Michigan and Ohio State, and both of those programs getting fined $100,000. So if I knew that was going to be the repercussion, because you're definitely getting into a fight if you go out there and you start pushing people and get into a scuffle, trying to get them to stop planting whatever, the flag, the trident, whatever it is. I think I would just let it. I'd like to think I would gracefully walk into the locker room after being beat, but that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you that I wouldn't let another team plant jack squat in the middle of my field.
Even if you knew that it was gonna, it would lead to a fight and your team was going to be fined $100,000 for it.
Okay, but I'm not going to be fined $100,000 for it as the college kid. I'm not going to be fined anything. The program's going to be fined the money, right? Yep. I'm not going to have any repercussion whatsoever. And none of those kids are getting any. Some of them I think got pepper sprayed. And from a guy that's a first responder, I can tell you pepper spray sucks. But it's you'll get over it. It's not that bad, right? I don't know if you saw the quote from Sawyer, Ohio State guy. If you saw what he did, he basically ripped the flag off of the pole when they did it, right?
Yep.
Before he goes out there's camera footage. I watched a lot of this for this segment because I wanted to make sure I was as prepared as possible, because I pretty much know what my viewpoints are going to be, and I wanted to make sure that I was online with everything once I saw a lot of the footage. He looked at one of his coaches, which was not Ryan Day, and I'll get to that in a moment. And he said to that coach, I am not going to let them plant their flag on our field. He said, I can't let them plant their flag on my field. I don't blame him. He didn't say, I'm going to go out there and beat the tar out of them for doing it. He said, I can't let them do it. And he didn't touch anybody. He went out there and he grabbed the hold of the flag and he ripped the flag off the flagpole. I don't even know if I could have done that. I'd have probably went out there swinging and clotheslining people and stunning people. And, we'd have done some wrestling moves out there in the middle or whatever, man. So I'll give him the fact that I think he actually showed some restraint by just pulling the flag off the pole. But there's no need for that. There's no need to win that way, and there's no need to lose that way. Like we said, dignity and respect. So now I'm gonna follow this up with a few questions. You kind of know they're coming because, again, we do these show notes for a reason. I like to have everything structured, and I think it makes the show go a lot better. So is it done by the coaches, first of all? Do you teach – how much of it is a coach's job to teach the kids to win with dignity and respect?
Yes, it's on the coaches, but more so than anything, especially when you're talking about kids and really teaching young people how to win and how to show that dignity and respect. It starts with the parents too. I mean, it starts with how these kids are raised. Sure, the coaches can go in and kind of whip them into shape and command that respect. And you instantly know the coaches that do, the no-nonsense guys that aren't going to, take that. but it can't all be on the coaches. They're only going to get so much respect. They at least have to be somewhat respectable and respectful young men before the coach gets to them, or it's just not going to do anything.
On that note, I don't know if you saw the camera work that one of the reporters did. He had his phone out, just like, gosh, everybody does now. We all have cameras and we carry them around with us 24/7 now, right? We can hit a red button and all of a sudden it records everything. He was showing Ryan Day. Ryan Day had his back to everything for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then he finally noticed there was a fight breaking out. He took a few steps forward. He didn't say anything. He didn't reach out and grab any of his kids. He didn't do nothing. I lost some respect for Ryan Day on Saturday. Actually, it wasn't on Saturday. It was more like Monday or Tuesday when I saw all the footage. But he didn't do anything. He didn't try to stop it. He didn't tell his kids to get back. He just stood there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he froze, if it's that whole flight or fight kind of mentality, and he chose the wrong one. But I'm with you. I think there at least is some blame to be put on the coaches for not trying to interfere. There were some of the Michigan coaches and some of the Ohio State coaches out there trying to break everything up. So at least they went out there and tried to get their kids to back off and go away. There was one police officer that was hurt in Ohio on Saturday. There were, I believe, 6 of them who deployed pepper spray on different people on Saturday. So, and that's just the Ohio State fight. We haven't talked about the one where the guy threw the flag like at the stands and craziness. Some of the things that some of these kids did was just absolutely ignorant.
Yeah.
And I hope my child never does anything like that. And if she does, there better not be any kind of camera following her afterward, because she and I are going to have a talk.
Yeah, exactly. The only, take out the uniforms. They all just looked like a bunch of spoiled kids out there, spoiled brats that didn't get their way or upset. And I think, it was really embarrassing. Honestly, really embarrassing for Ryan Day. That was a really bad look for him. I know he's frustrated. He just cannot beat Michigan no matter what he does. But it is just a really bad look. You can't let your kids go out there and do that. And you at least got to try to talk some sense into him, try to get him to stop. But to just stand there and when he had his back turned to it, he knows what's going on out there. He knows there's a scuffle going on, and he's trying to buy himself as much time to say, "Oh, I didn't know they were fighting. I didn't know if I should step in." And by the time I turned around, it was settled, or it looked like it was dying down. Whatever excuse he wanted to use, that's what it was for. And
if that's the guy who's leading you, right? That's your coach. That's your head coach. That's the guy who's leading all the rest of these kids. I'm not saying that these kids didn't have, they didn't make their own decisions.
Yep.
But you need to have a better leader, in my estimation, leading those kids.
Yep.
Should the Power 4 conferences get together and do something here?
Yeah. See, this is where I'm kind of on it. We don't see this every year. We don't see it every week. It was a big rivalry week. And so I think tempers were definitely higher than usual. I don't know if it's to the point that we need to get together and do something, or what that would actually do if the Power 4 conferences did actually get together. Sure, they can make some more rules and they could really decentivize it. But I don't know. To me, it's like, have the conversation with the coaches, maybe. I don't think, doing anything to the kids that did it is going to really do anything. But I don't really know what you do to make sure that stuff doesn't happen again.
All right. So there's kind of an unwritten rule, Mitch. I don't know if you know this or not. I was reading about it. Pardon me, I'm a little on the weather, but I'm pushing through here. So there's there's an unwritten rule where they're supposed to take the flags and put them back in the locker room with like 5 minutes left to go in the game. Now, it doesn't always happen, and obviously it didn't. And if you watch the Michigan game close enough, they didn't bring the flag from the sideline. The kid went into the locker room and got the flag and brought it back out onto the field. So they tried, but it didn't work, right? And what about the other side of this? What about what Baker Mayfield said? I don't know if you've seen Baker and the interview they did with him. Of course, you know, the OU-Texas rivalry is huge.
Yeah.
And this Saturday, I don't know if you saw this or not, they put a Baker Mayfield jersey on the field and planted the flag into the Baker Mayfield jersey onto the field. So when they asked Baker about it, he said, quote, "Let the boys play." And then he went on and he said, OU-Texas does it every time they play. It's not anything special. You take your L and you move on. What do you think about what Baker Mayfield said?
See, I actually agree with that. I do think, you know, you take your L and you move on, but I also think you take your win and you move on. You don't need to go out there and showboat. And you did what you came there to do.
You did what you were supposed to do. Yes.
Yeah. Now go handle your win with some dignity and some grace and celebrate in the locker room with your team like you should be. Don't be out there fighting the other team that you just beat or got beat by. Go back, and if you lost, go back in the locker room, figure out why you lost. I mean, it's not the end of the season, especially for Ohio State. They got to figure out how to bounce back from this. They can't be thinking about Michigan next week, or they're going to fall out of the college football playoffs.
So I'm going to say this, and I know you're going to roll your eyes at me because you're like, oh, here we go, right? But the kids are only following the lesson that they see. And I'm going to go back to our favorite sport because I can't stand it when this happens, and you probably know exactly where I'm going, even though I didn't put it in the notes, right? I can't stand the bat flips. I can't, I hit a home run. I'm going to throw the bat up in the air about 40 feet, and I'm going to watch it fall. And then I'm going to point to my dugout, and I'm going to round first, and I'm going to blow kisses, and I'm going to, rock the baby and all this other stupidness that they all do, right? If you're not going to do anything to the major league players on a major league field that are grown adults, how can we police the kids that are on the field that are doing the same thing?
Yeah, I agree. I will say you don't see this stuff happening in the NFL. That's not. I mean, we haven't seen something like, not since T.O. Planting that ball in the big star.
Yes,
I mean, you see some little scuffles and skirmishes, but nothing like widespread like we saw this week in college.
Okay, so I'll give you that, but we still see some really stupid end zone celebrations and all this kind of stuff, right? It's all still the bat flip, end zone celebrations. It's all the same for me. Hand the ball to the referee and walk back over to the sideline and shut your mouth.
Yeah, well, I think the difference there is, we do still see that, and we see some taunting. I think the NFL specifically, they're grown men, and when you go out there and you're being childish and taunting somebody and you get your team a 15-yard penalty, whether it's on the extra point now and it makes it like a 50-yard field goal, or, the play didn't result in a touchdown and now your team's 15 yards back, you got other grown men coming at you, not only your coaches, but your teammates. And that's what really holds them accountable. And that's, I think, the difference in college is these are a bunch of kids, and even if you got your teammates holding you accountable, a lot of the guys doing this are going to say, I'm better than you anyways. Who do you think you are talking to me, or whatever it is. And I think that's really why we see it at the college level and not NFL. Yeah,
because the NFL is a team sport. So if one person screws up and costs them a 15-yard penalty and knocks them out of field goal range, there's going to be some knocking somewhere else, probably in the locker room or on the sidelines or something, right? All right, so we're stuck here. Hang on. All right, Mitch, I think we got you again.
Yeah,
I think there we go.
Wi-Fi went out for a second there, but it's back.
Right, it's back. Okay. So I like the discussion. We didn't disagree as much as I kind of thought we would, but that's okay. There are 6 title games this weekend, Mitch. Let's look at all 6 of them. You're going to give us the odds, and I'm going to try to tell you who's going to win. So the AAC game, it's on Friday, ABC. Mashai Stadium, I believe is how you pronounce it, 6 p.m. on ABC. It is number 17 Tulane against Army, who was ranked up until a couple of weeks ago. Tell us what the odds are on this game, Mitch, the ACC Conference Championship game with number 17 Tulane and Army. By the way, Tulane is 9-3, Army's 10-1. Go ahead, buddy.
Yep. Yeah. Like you said, Tulane, number 17. They're favored in this one at minus 205 at a 4.5 point spread. And then you got Army at plus 170. So pretty tight spread. A little more heavily favored than I thought Tulane would be. I think people are kind of underrating Army right now after they fell out of the top 25. But
I agree.
Yeah. So Tulane favored. I don't know if you want to, well, I guess I'll let you take the winners first.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to take Army in the points. All right. That's what I'm going to do. What are you going to do, Mitch?
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I'm taking Army in the points. I think that defense is really going to stand up against Tulane, and Army still 10-1. That's their only loss this season. Probably pretty butthurt about falling outside of the top 25. So yeah, I agree. Army's going to show up well and win that game. And I'll take points with it too.
I agree. If we had a show last week, I was going to tell everybody that I was scared about Michigan coming into Ohio State because Michigan has nothing to lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Army's in the same boat. Army's got nothing to lose. They're pissed. They fell out of the top 25. They only lost one time, and it's like, really, we get disrespected that much where we fall out with one loss? And it was to Notre Dame, right? Now, I know it was a big spread there. They beat them by like 30 or 40 points.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame's a top 5 team right now. So you should expect a top 5 team to beat, a top 25 team, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm going to go Army in the points. Let's jump to the next game, Mountain West Championship game, I should say. Number 22, UNLV at 10-2 versus number 11, Boise State at 11-1. This game will be from Albertson Stadium. It'll be played on Fox this Friday at 6 p.m. So give us the point spread here, Boise State and UNLV, sir.
Yeah, Boise State's favored in this one at minus 185. So it's actually going to be what Vegas thinks a closer matchup than Tulane Army. Boise State currently minus 185 with a 4 even point spread. And then UNLV at plus 154. Who do you got there?
Yeah, I'm not touching UNLV, man. Boise State's got our running back that we both love. They're just going to keep handing in the ball and watch him go, man. So I don't think it's going to be this close. In fact, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to say Boise State's going to beat them double-digit point-wise before the game's all said and done.
Yeah, honestly, this one kind of blows my mind. I know they had a rough week 2 weeks ago against Wyoming, only beating them by 4, 17-13. But, I mean, outside of that, the only loss Boise State has this season is against the number 1 team in the country, and they lost by 3. I mean, I really don't understand this point spread. I completely agree. I'm going to take an alternate spread on this one and say Boise State as well by 10 at least.
So now does that, I don't know if I'm catching you off guard here, but so I don't know a lot about the gambling stuff. You know a lot more about it than I do. So if you do something like that and you say, okay, look, I want to take Boise State and I'll give them X amount of points, does that change the spread? Does that change your money line? How does that work, Mitch?
Yeah, so the way that the spread works, what Vegas determines it, those are always going to be around minus 110 odds, which means you got to bet $110 to win 100.
Okay.
The further away from that spread you go, say, you want to take Boise at minus 10 and a half. That's probably going to be somewhere around like plus 300 or plus 200. Where they say, okay, if you're willing to take more points and with risk that they don't win by double digits, we'll bump that up a little bit more and give you some more money back for it for taking a risk there.
Okay.
So yeah, this is definitely one that I would take the alternate spread on for sure.
Okay. All right, cool. Big 12 game. Iowa State 10-2 at ASU, also 10-2. ASU is number 12 in the country now. I haven't seen where they put Ohio or Iowa State at. I know they were like 17 or 18 last week, and I think they've jumped up a couple spots. I believe they're at 16, but I'm not 100% sure on that. It's going to be played at AT&T Stadium, so there's actually going to be a good game played in the Cowboy Stadium sometime this year. I had to throw that in there and then stab the knife in there. So AT&T Stadium, 10 a.m. West Coast start time on ABC. Talk about the point spread a minute. I'm going to excuse myself here for just a second and adjust something real fast on our stuff. So you got the floor for about a minute and a half. All right, buddy?
Okay. Yeah, hopefully the shadows don't come into play in AT&T Stadium this week. But yeah, this is actually our closest game of the championship games on Saturday. Arizona State is favored just slightly at -125. They're -2 spread. And then we got Iowa State at +105. This is another one that I'm going to take the alternate spread because exactly what Mike was saying earlier. This Iowa State team cannot stop the run, and that's Arizona State's bread and butter. I'm going to take Arizona State -7.5 on this one. I think they're going to win by a touchdown, at least, and I think that that's going to be a really, really good chance to take, especially with how close the game is. If you start getting into that 6.5, 7.5 point spread, you're going to see a pretty big plus number, probably plus 350, maybe 400, to get your return on your money there. So I'm taking Arizona State, and it's not just because I'm a homer, but I know Mike and I are both high on Scadaboo. Really, really good player, and I think they're gonna walk away with that one pretty handily. I don't see them having much trouble with Iowa State there, but you never know with those shadows in AT&T Stadium. They might come back to get them.
Right, they might get blinded too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I imagine you're taking Arizona State as well with me. They're favored -125, 2-point spread. Actually, the closest spread this weekend. And Iowa State's +105.
Well, I'm sure the reason for that smaller point spread is because you've got their number one receiver down right at the moment. Yeah. He's got a collarbone issue. We talked about this a little bit before we got all this going. And I'll give you this stat. He has 72 more targets than any other receiver on the ASU football team. 72 more targets. That's crazy. But I don't know. Again, I walked away. I couldn't hear what all you were saying, which I apologize for there, but I needed to fix that real fast before it got to be a problem. But I believe that – so Iowa State, as I said earlier in the show, is like 96th in stopping the run. They're just going to hand the ball off to Cam Scadaboo. He's going to get 250 yards. I'm making my prediction now. And then Brown, they have a backup running back, a smaller, faster little guy. He's going to get 100 as well. So they're just going to keep feeding both those guys the ball. And when they need to pass it, they will on long yardage downs or something like that. But I don't think this game's going to be that close. I'm going to do another double-digit win. I think ASU is going to beat Iowa State by at least 10 points.
Yeah, I agree. The only reason I kept it single digits, I said 7. I'll give them a 7-point spread, is because they are going to be one-dimensional. You know what they're going to be doing. They're going to be running it down your throat. I think Iowa State's rush defense will get a little bit better because of that. They don't have to worry so much about the pass. But also, when they start selling out for the run, it's going to make it a lot easier to get those big passing plays. So I do think Arizona State's going to pull it out pretty easily. I think this is just a case of our strength versus your weakness, and that's really going to hurt Iowa State there.
Right. And then I don't know how much you've really seen the games, how much you've watched. I've watched a lot of ASU football over the past few weeks. I'm really getting behind this team. I love Kenny Dillingham. He wants to make me go through a wall, and I'm 51 years old, but I'll run through it or into it, one of the two. Scadaboo is also a very good quarterback or a catch running back out of the backfield. So if the straight runs don't work, and they love to put Scadaboo like 7 yards deep and just hold the ball out there. Here he comes, right? And he just snatches the ball and runs. He's a great guy to watch. I love the style of play that he has. And I think actually he's gonna go on to the next level and be a really good running back for an NFL team as well. Let's move on to the SEC championship game. SEC title game, number 7 Georgia with a 10-2 record versus number 3 Texas with an 11-1 mark. This game will be played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of the Saints, and it'll be played at 2 p.m. on ABC. Mitch, give us the odds for this one.
Yeah, we got Texas favored in this one at -148. Again, a pretty tight spread at -2.5 for them, and then Georgia +124.
It's a little bit closer spread than I thought it was going to be. I kind of did this on purpose. I didn't want to know the spreads until we were doing this live, so you could actually see my reaction and watch that little brain and this great big head work around to figure out what I want to do here. I still like Texas. I probably, if I was a really a betting man, I probably wouldn't touch this game, to be very honest with you. It's going to be a close game. This is probably going to be the best game of all the games I think that are going to be played this weekend. But if you were pointing a gun to my head and said you have to pick a team, I'm still going to go with Texas, even though they're the favorites.
Agreed. I think there'll at least be a good half of football in this game. Georgia, I'm not sure can play a full game anymore. They looked really bad at times against Georgia Tech this last weekend, and honestly should have lost that game a few times. But they pulled it out. I don't think they're going to get the redos that they did against Georgia Tech. So I think Texas is getting this one. I'm with you there.
Yeah, I would agree there. I mean, this is a Texas team. If they'd have played Texas last week, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So,
exactly.
Not a problem. Big Ten title game, number 4 Penn State that gets to go up there because Ohio State got beat by Michigan. They are playing number 1 Oregon. Oregon's 12-0. Penn State 11-1. Their only loss was to Ohio State. They're playing in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium, 6 p.m. The only game that is on CBS is the Big Ten title game. Tell us what kind of odds we got here. Penn State, Oregon.
I think this one's going to surprise you a little bit too. Oregon favored at -175 and a 3.5 point spread. That leaves Penn State at +145 for this one.
No, there is no way this is going to happen. Penn State didn't have a good enough offense to keep up with Oregon. Oregon's going to blow them out of the water. The only thing I can see Oregon maybe doing is the Oregon coach sometimes has feelings. And I mean, this is going to sound kind of bad, but he does. He kind of has feelings. He almost gave it away with Ohio State when they were playing. He kind of let off the gas a little bit. That's the only thing that I can see happening possibly in this game too, is he's just going to look at it and, Oregon's going to be up by probably 2 touchdowns at halftime. And then he's going to go, you know what, boys, we got this one. Let's not make fools of them. Let's pull off the gas a little bit. And then Penn State may do a rally and start to come back. But then Oregon State's just going to put the accelerator back down and be like, look, I told you boys to stay down. So Oregon's got this. This would be another game where I would take not only the points that they're giving Oregon, but I would probably try to, I don't know how you want to call it. You want to call it buying points or whatever you want to call it. I would buy some of those points and I would make it to where I'd get a better return on this game.
Yeah, that's it. I'm with you, and I would say 2 touchdowns, not even double digits. I'm taking Oregon 2 touchdowns. It's funny you mentioned that about kind of having a soft spot and laying off the gas. Some teams, especially with what James Franklin said this last week, when Penn State was throwing the ball with their 3rd and 4th string guys in there as time expired, and he said, "Hey, look, my job is to coach football for everybody that I put on the field. My third and fourth string guys, they're still out there to play football. If
Right.
their number ones can't stop my third and fourth guys, that's on them. That's not on me. And I actually really appreciate that.
Yep.
I think it goes a long way for those guys that, might not see much game action. And that's probably that guy's first touchdown of the season. Might be one of his college career. So I really respect that, going out there and still playing for those guys, because, it means a lot to them.
Absolutely. I'll take it back to the Arizona State game this weekend. First pass, I wish I could remember the kid's name. I can't right offhand. First pass he's ever thrown. He breaks a tackle. He runs down the sideline, scores, I believe it's like a 60 or 70-yard touchdown on the first pass he's ever thrown in his college career. And everybody's he's they were saying that he's a really good guy, and they love him a lot. And they were even on the sidelines 10 minutes after the play was over, they were still congratulating him and hugging him and high-fiving him and everything else. So you're right. Things like that can cement a team together, can be the glue that keeps that team together. So I agree with you and with Franklin. My job is to beat you, and if I just humiliate you in the process, then you should have stopped.
Yep.
Last one of the night is the ACC. It's the 9-3 Clemson Tigers that are ranked number 12 versus the 11-1 SMU team ranked number 9. It's played at Bank of America Field, and it is at 6 p.m. on ABC. So what do we got as far as money lines and stuff for this one, Mitch? Clemson Tigers and SMU Mustangs.
Yeah, another one that I think is too close. The more we look at this, I think I'm going to end up putting a parlay together of at least the money line guys, because of all these, they're all so close. You string a few of these together, you'll get a good plus money parlay. But SMU currently minus 135 with a 2.5 point spread. Clemson at plus 114.
All right, I agree with you. I like a lot of these money lines. Again, I'm not a big gambler, but I know you are. Can you do me a favor? And I'm going to ask you to do this on live television without giving you any kind of notice whatsoever. And if I get that bug-eyed look over the stash, then I know not to do this again. But so how about you do me a favor? How about on your Twitter account? And what's your Twitter account again, Mitch?
Yeah, you'll find me at MitchellBrook52.
All right, at MitchellBrook52, right? So tag the 643 and out Spike on your Twitter account, put a parlay together, and we'll throw it out there, and we'll tell our fans, hey, this is where you should go this weekend on all these college football games. Because I agree with you. A lot of these games are way too close. There are going to be some blowouts this weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like that a lot. And putting it together right now live,
okay.
And everybody we just picked. So we got SMU, and these are just money lines. We're not even taking the points like we said we would with these. So these teams just need to win outright. We got SMU, Oregon, Texas, Arizona State, and Army. The only upset we're taking technically would be Army. And that's a 5-pick parlay at plus 2,127. So you put $5 on that, you're winning $106. $10, you're winning 200. So those are pretty good odds, and I don't really see where that's losing.
Right. No, I like that. I like that a lot. You may see me make my first bet over the weekend. Maybe we'll do something where Mitch and I each throw in $10, and we'll make it 20, and then we'll go out in the town later on. So
yeah, exactly.
We'll film it and put it up on our YouTube channel if that's what we end up doing. So no problem there. All right, buddy. Let's do this. Let me get this stuff back in order here. Nope, that was not what I wanted to do. All right. We are going to go into the NFL. Let's do it here. Let me plug this thing back in where I believe it's right. Turn this down a little bit. Get that there. All right. You can hear that, right, buddy?
Yep.
Okay. I'm just making sure our technical difficulties aren't going with us on the live version, all right? Okay. So we're going to get into NFL 4-down territory. We're going to look at the Pro Bowl vote getters. We're going to look at, let's see, a little girl named Mia. If you haven't heard about this, I may go a little crazy when we talk about Mia here in a few minutes. We're going to talk about Josh Allen and his month of December and how great it has been. And will it continue? That's our Twitter poll question. So go over to the 643&Out pod, and you will find our Twitter poll question. You can vote between now and the time we talk about it here in the third part of this segment. And then we will end the segment with which AFC, NFL, first place team should you be placing your money on to go to the Super Bowl. We'll talk to Mitch about that exclusively, and he will tell us exactly what we should be doing here when we get to that point. All right, buddies. So the Pro Bowl givers: offense, quarterback Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels; running back Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. The fullbacks are Carson Steele, Kyle Juszczyk. The tight ends are Brock Bauer and George Kittle. The wide receivers: Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. The tackles: Joe Alt, Panay Sewell. The guards are Joe Thuney and Kim Zider. Center: Creed Humphrey and Frank Ragnow, right? I believe it's how you say it.
Yep.
Is that good?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head? Yes. All right. Defense: defensive end Trey Hendrickson and Nick Bosa. Defensive tackle Quentin Williams, Dexter Lawrence. The outside linebackers are T.J. Watt, Andrew Van Ginkel. Inside linebackers, Relcon Smith, Fred Warner. The cornerback is Marlon Humphrey and Byron Murphy. The free safeties are DeMar Hamlin, Xavier McKinney. The strong safety, Kyle Hamilton and Buda Baker. And then special teams, Chris Boswell and Brandon Aubrey are your kickers. The punter, Townsend, Matthew Hayball. The RSs, I'm not sure what that is. Sure, I'll let that play too. They are Juan Jackson, Devontae Turpin. Then you've got Miles Killebrew, Sion McKay, I think. The long snappers, James Winchester and Andrew DePaul. So got a lot of different people there, got a lot of different stuff to talk about. So I'll ask you this. Save that down and stop it. All right, excellent. So get back up here with you and say, so here we go. Do people even pay attention to the Pro Bowl anymore, Mitch?
No. The Pro Bowl's dead. The NFL's killed the Pro Bowl. It's not even a bowl anymore. There is no game. So yeah, no, nobody pays attention to it. I couldn't even tell you what they do for it anymore. I know it's a week long, and a bunch of stupid little games that they got grown men out there playing. But no, I don't think anybody pays attention to the Pro Bowl anymore.
All right, so I rattled off a whole bunch of names, and I apologize for people if I, mispronounced their name somehow. I am slowly fading out of football, and I don't want to get on this soapbox here. But this season, especially to me, there's been a lot of different things that have happened, and I'm just going to say it out loud. Some people are going to agree with me. Some people are going to disagree with me. Pro football looks rigged this year. There's been way too many plays that I've looked at and went, really? Did you watch the Kansas City game on Thursday night? I mean, it seems to almost always involve Taylor's team. But I'm really starting to fade out of it. I don't want to go on some big long tangent about it, but if I mispronounce some of these names, 9 times out of 10, I'd have every name correct. I would research everything and get it all point and put together. I just didn't care enough, to be very honest with you. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give these guys the respect they deserve. I'm going to rattle off their names on the show, and then I'm going to ask you this question about all of those guys all put together, because I don't think we can go through each position and be able to have a quality show about it for the next 20 or 30 minutes. So I'm just going to wrap it up in like 5 or 7 minutes and ask you, is there any name on that list that you don't think should be there? Because I have one. Actually, I have 2. One's going to be really mean, and one's probably going to be a little obvious. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I actually have 2 as well. The first one that really stands out to me is Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, that's mine too.
That I mean, honestly, going through this, I thought I would have a lot more, but I'm like, that seems like the fan vote doesn't really make sense to me. There, you always get somebody like that, like, somebody that's having a down year. I don't know, for example, like Klay Thompson in the NBA, who's fallen off a cliff. He's still going to get a bunch of votes because everybody remembers who he was 10 years ago.
Right.
you really don't see many names on here like this, but
Mm-mm.
Jaden Daniels is the big glaring one for me. Outside of this, I really don't disagree with anyone. Carson Steele, I don't really get for. I think that's just the Chiefs' love. But fullbacks are also slim pickings these days too. So I kind of understand that one a little more. Two more that I'm like on. DeMar Hamlin, I just don't know enough about his season, or if that's just a feel good thing that people.
It's
are,
just a
yeah.
guy.
I mean, I've watched a few Bills games this season, and DeMar hasn't stood out to me in any of them. I mean, he's made some good plays, but to be leading Pro Bowl getter, I really don't get that. And then I actually think they had a miss on the return specialist. Green Bay has a really good return specialist, Nixon, who does really, really well. I thought he kind of got snubbed there. Turpin from the Cowboys, I know he had that one big long return last or 2 weeks ago. But outside of that, I mean, Cowboys haven't done anything. So are we just kind of throwing in somebody because the Cowboys needed somebody?
So baseball does the thing. You brought this up. It's not really in the notes. I'll throw it out there for 30 seconds or so. Baseball does the thing where every team has to be involved, right? You have to have a representative from every team. Do you think the NFL should do that?
I don't. I think it doesn't really matter to me anymore because the Pro Bowl is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think, there's so many guys in the NFL that I don't think you need to get one from every team. I think it should be the best. I understand it a little more in Major League Baseball.
Why? Why do you understand it more?
Because there's only 30 teams and one player each game at one position on the field. I mean, barring substitutions. In the NFL, you got 53 guys on each team, substitutions each level, each down. So I think a lot more guys have the opportunity there than they would in Major League Baseball.
Okay, all right. So I'm with you. I'm going to say the first guy, Jaden Daniels, shouldn't be on this list. There are plenty of other quarterbacks who have had a much better season than Jaden Daniels. Both these guys are my feel-good guys, and I don't do the feelings. I do the stats, right? Prove to me you belong on the field. Don't just be a rookie and everybody's like, oh, you're doing good, yay. No, I'm not. I don't buy all that. And it's the same thing with DeMar Hamlin. And I know I'm probably going to get a lot of flack from Bills fans. And you guys can bring it on. That's fine. I'm good with it, right? DeMar Hamlin is a great story. I'm very glad that nothing more happened to him than what did. I'm glad that he's playing in the NFL. I'm very happy that he's with the Buffalo Bills and that he's made a what seems to be a full recovery. But that doesn't mean he's a Pro Bowl player. So those are my two things are going to be Jaden Daniels and DeMar Hamlin. Last question on the Pro Bowl stuff. Well, actually, we'll have a little bit more here. Does it still mean something to the players? We basically said it doesn't mean anything to us as fans. Do you think it still means something to the players to be a Pro Bowl selection?
I think being able to say, well, I was a Pro Bowler last year means something to them. I don't think actually going and participating in all the stupid little events they have means anything to them, like it did to play in the game. But I do think, they can still hang their hat on, well, I got selected to the Pro Bowl.
Right. So it's kind of like I'm one of the best of my position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I get that. If the Pro Bowl was played here in Arizona, would you make sure you went?
No. The only way I'm going to the Pro Bowl here in Arizona is if we get media credentials and the ticket's free. Now, other than that, there's no way.
All right, I'll work on that. All right. So now we're going to move on to Mia. I'm going to try to say this without getting too all worked up about it. So if you guys haven't seen it, I wish I could do the thing where I tried. I wanted to have a picture of her in back of me here on this television. That's what we eventually want to be able to do with this show as we continue to evolve it and make it better for us and for you guys. If you can go to our Twitter page. We do have a shot of Mia up on our Twitter page at the 643 and Out Pod. You can go to that. Little girl named Mia had to leave her first NFL game early because a drunk Bills fan pushed her down the stairs of the stadium. And I forgot to unplug that. Hang on. All right, here we go. But the problem was Mia just beat cancer. And you got some stupid drunk Bills fan. I don't care if it's a Bills fan or a Packers fan or a Bengals fan or an Arizona Cardinals fan, whatever. It's a stupid drunk fan. You can take the name of the team out if you'd like. That's fine. And they pushed her down the stairs, and herself and her family had to leave that game early. I am glad that I was not there to see this because Mia would be at home and Valentine would be in jail. I wouldn't have been able to handle that. There's no way in the world. I'd have done something crazy and probably would have gotten in trouble for it. So here's my question to you, Mitch. If you're the Bills, what do you do to the drunk fan?
Ban for life. I don't care. The fact that this happened, I don't care that he was drunk. I don't care that, any excuse you can give, inexcusable, and not only because, her battle with cancer, anything. You pushed a kid down the stairs and they had to leave her first game. I mean, you're banned. You're done. If you can't control yourself because you got so drunk, for this game that you can't make sure you're not injuring people, and especially little girls that are there for the first time. Take all of that out of it. If you're injuring other fans, banned. And that, people probably say that's too harsh. I don't care. Banned. You're one fan. I don't care. Watch the games from home, man.
I agree with you. I'd probably do a little more, to be honest. I would, I'd probably do something, make him go apologize to her at the hospital. I would do everything in my power as executives of the Buffalo Bills to make this guy look the way he should look, to make this guy look as bad as he should look. Yeah. We've been to sporting events together. I'm not a drinker. You are, but you've always been able to keep yourself under control, right? So you're not saying you can't drink. What you're saying is you can't get stupid and while you're drinking, right?
Exactly. Being an adult, there's one thing I don't excuse, and then it's not taking responsibility for your own actions, and that's exactly what you do when you're drunk. And I was drunk. I didn't mean to. I don't care, man. Have the wherewithal to know what's your surroundings, know what's going on, and be an adult. If you can't control yourself and compose yourself, especially around children, then you shouldn't be drinking that much, and you shouldn't be allowed back in that stadium.
So if you are the Bills, what do you do for Mia?
Oh, you pull out all the stops. Anything. You bring them on the sidelines, season tickets. You make sure she's at any game she wants to be. You take care of the family. You let her meet the players. Anything you can to try to make it right, because what happened is not right. Mia should have been there watching that game, and that drunk guy should have been at home and on his couch, not the other way around.
All right, so we're going to do our Twitter poll question here next. I don't want to spend too much time on me because it's just going to make me mad, and I'm going to I want to meet this guy. Just me and him alone in a dark alley somewhere. Anyway, since 2022, in the month of December, Josh Allen is 10-0, and that counts the victory that he just got over the San Francisco 49ers. And this is our Twitter poll question. People who are listening to us, double digits right now, thank you guys very much. We appreciate it. We're actually trending right now on Twitter as far as the podcast stuff here on the side. Thank you for allowing us to do that. We certainly appreciate everything that you guys do for us as far as this show and beyond. 339 people have looked at this poll question. They have viewed this question, It's a 60-40 split right at the moment. So, Mitch, I will ask you. Josh Allen's 10-0 in the month of December since 2022. The Bills have the following 5 opponents. One of them is San Francisco that they already beat. The other 4 are the LA Rams, your Detroit Lions, the New England Patriots, and the New York Jets. Will Josh Allen go undefeated in the month of December? When this month of December is done, will he go 14-0?
Nope. There's going to be one loss. It's going to be 13-1 there. And honestly, I would be inclined to say yes if this game against the Lions was not in Detroit. But I think that's going to be the difference maker. If this is in Buffalo, I think they find a way to pull it out and probably win that game. But yeah, I think the Lions are gonna get the best of them that day in Detroit. That's really going to be the difference maker.
All right, let me give you a couple other things that I think may be difference makers. They've already clinched the division. With that win over San Francisco, they've got the division. So are they going to play as hard?
I still think they're going to play as hard the rest of the season. They're still chasing the Chiefs.
Taylor's team.
Taylor's team. They're still chasing that team in Kansas City. But I do think they're going to play hard the rest of the season, and that's why I think they're not just going to roll over. But honestly, they don't have to play that hard against the Rams, Patriots, and Jets. I mean, those are going to be pretty.
Yeah, but that's where you get caught.
That is where you get caught. But
that's how Ohio State got caught, right? That's how all these college teams got caught over the weekend, right?
But it's also different when these teams are looking for draft picks. You know, the Rams are still in the fight. They're going to be playing hard. That's going to be their toughest battle outside of Detroit for sure. But New England and the Jets, they're at the point that they're going to be looking for further into draft picks, and they know that winning games at this point is a moot point and is actually going to hurt them when it comes to building their teams for the future. So I think that's kind of the difference there. Those teams, they're still not going to roll over, but they'll be a little more inclined to take their loss gracefully.
All right. So before we get to our last question here, when we talk about the AFC NFL number 1 teams here, I want to give you your 3 questions here, and they're all going to have to do with the NFL. Pick one, and we're going to talk about it for 30 seconds. Buddy, you ready?
Yep.
All right. So, let's do a little bit of this again. I like this here. Let me get this set up. I probably should not have plugged that back in until after I did that. Okay, fine. Let's go here. All right, so the Browns wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy, entered last night's game in 30th place in the NFL in receiving yards. Last night, he got 235, and he's jumped himself all the way up to number 5. He went from 30 to number 5 in one game. Giants, number 1. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Giants, number 1 round pick, Malik Neighbors, has not scored a touchdown since week 3. He hasn't scored a touchdown since week 3, over 2 months ago. I said it. I teased it earlier. Is LeBron James human? Here's your question about LeBron James. He is 0 for 19 on 3-point shots in his last 4 games. He went 0 for 4 against the Timberwolves, 0 for 9 against the Jazz, 0 for 4 against the Thunder, and 0 for 2 against the Spurs. So if you want to talk about that one, is LeBron James human? Last one. This past Sunday, quarterback Aaron Rodgers lost a game despite his team leading by 14 points or more. And before Sunday, Aaron Rodgers was 75-0 when his team led by 14 or more points. It's just another sign that says, Aaron, it's time to give it up, son. So there you are. Aaron Rodgers, LeBron James, Malik Neighbors. I know I gave you an extra one. Or Jerry Jeudy. Which one are you going to talk about?
I actually want to talk about Jerry Jeudy because that was one of the best Monday Night Football games I've seen in a really long time. And wow, to go from 30th to 5th is crazy there. I don't want to talk about Neighbors because I have him on my fantasy team. So that's why I'm avoiding that. I'm avoiding the LeBron. I don't want to. I still love LeBron, and man, what he's done. But Father Time is still undefeated, man. I mean, 22 seasons. That Father Time is going to always win. So that's what I'll chalk it up to LeBron for, and Aaron Rodgers. Honestly, Aaron Rodgers, kind of in the same boat. Just nothing left to give. It was a good first quarter for the Jets. Outside of that, they were the Jets again. So
almost.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our last NFL question here. Actually, we didn't do the poll question results. Give me just a second. I'll click back over to it. Of course, X wants to refresh when I click back over. That's always the way this thing works. I can tell you that it was 60-40. Twitter's saying we're live too. So, yeah, we must really be live. Boy, we're live all over the place. Trending up here on our right up there with Sons of Star podcast that's going live right now too. I won't tell you which one's got more, but I will tell you it's not us. So here's the Sports Truth poll question of the week. It is, since 2022 December, Josh Allen's 10-0. He's already beat the 49ers. So Bills Mafia now has to play the Rams, the Tigers, the Patriots, and the Jets. And will he go undefeated after this month of December is over? 60% of our voters say yes. 40% of our voters agree with Mitch and say no. So 60-40 split there. Thought that was kind of interesting. Let's go to our last question. Which AFC, NFL, first place team should you place your money on? Mitch, you have the Bills, the Texans, the Steelers, and Taylor's team. Which one are you going to put your money on? Tell us some odds. Give us some info here, buddy. What are you going to do?
Yeah, honestly, this one is a great question. I think without even knowing the lines, you created a good question here. So you've got the Chiefs and Bills both at plus 500, and this is to win the Super Bowl. Both the Chiefs and Bills at plus 500. Then you got the Steelers at plus 2,500. And Houston way down the list at plus 4,000. Honestly, out of any of these teams, they all have pretty solid odds for the chances that I give them. I'm actually, because I can't bet on the Chiefs, I refuse to. And if I see them win another Super Bowl, I'm going to boycott and lose my mind. So I'm actually going to put the Bills. I think they have the best chance. Worst odds here, but still plus 500. Those are pretty good odds there. I like that. Outside of that, the only other one I'd place a bet on is the Steelers, plus 2,500. I don't give the Texans a real shot. They struggled with the Jags this past weekend and just looked really, really bad at times, especially defensively, to let that team, score over 20 points for the second time this season. I don't hate the Steelers at plus 2,500 though. If they figure out their red zone offense and Russ kind of gets things back to normal for them in that red zone, the Steelers have a really good shot too at plus 2,500, especially. Those are good odds.
Well, as long as they play the Bengals, they should be okay.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk about it. So give me a non-first place AFC team that you would take a chance on.
Yeah, right now I'd put my money on the Ravens. The Ravens at plus 1,200. They're actually favored more than the Steelers to win that. the Super Bowl, and that's probably where I'd put my money there. I think that the Justin Tucker really scares me right now, and I don't know what they're going to do with him. They got a really, really tough decision to make with Justin Tucker. But man, he's just a completely different player right now. If they can't get his confidence back in these last few weeks of the season, that could be the difference maker in them losing a playoff game, if he's still as unreliable as he is right now.
And I will tell you, I know we didn't talk about this when we were talking about the game earlier, but so it doesn't worry me this weekend. But if ASU goes any further in the playoffs, their kicking team is not very well either. Their kicking game's not very good. So I would worry about that going forward, just while we're talking about it. Last thing here, I promised that we would wrap up the present here for the running backs and put a pretty little bow on it. Let's do it with this. Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Josh Jacobs were all let go by their former teams in the offseason. The record of those teams that let those three running backs go are 7-26. And the new teams that those three running backs are with are 25-9. So here's my question to you, Mitch, as we wrap up our football talk for this edition here. We're going to jump into our MLB 4 pitch talk. If quarterback is still the most important position in football, what's number 2? The wide receiver or the running back?
I actually might surprise you with this one. I'm going to say wide receiver, because you need somebody for that quarterback to throw to. And here's the other thing that I really think it comes down to wide receivers and why we see the disparity between the previous team's record and their new team record. All three of those guys left to a better position or a better team than they were on previously. The Giants, the Titans, and the Raiders. Nobody really expected anything of those teams this year. They're at where they should be. They're definitely impacting their teams in huge ways, especially Josh Jacobs. He's making a huge impact on that team in their rushing attack. But I think the reason I don't value running backs more than wide receivers right now is look at the San Francisco 49ers and look at what Jordan Mason was able to do in the absence of Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason was a top 3 yards from scrimmage guy when he was the lead back there in San Francisco this year. So yes, Christian McCaffrey, great running back, but when your drop off is still in the top 3 in all-purpose yards at running back, are you really that much better, or is it about a lot more than just what your running back can do?
Okay. I don't really think there's a wrong answer here, to be honest with you. I would probably lean more toward a running back. I'm still the guy that kind of thinks run. You got to be able to run the ball and you got to be able to stop the run kind of deal. But if I'm watching a game, I want the team to Cincinnati Bengals, even if they lose all the time and they just throw the tar out of the ball. That's the fun games to watch, right? If it's my team, I mean, come on, I'm a Bengals guy. I got the orange shirt on. This is not a Bengals shirt, but I got the orange and black on here, and I'm a little embarrassed. They scored like 44 points and still lost the game, for God's sake. So I haven't actually watched it yet. I haven't seen the game per se. I couldn't stomach watching Ohio State and Cincinnati in the same weekend, so I only watched one. But all right, let's go to our MLB 4-pitch talk. All right, so MLB 4-pitch talk this week. We're going to look at the price of the new Vegas ballpark, and we're going to talk about what we like in a ballpark. We are going to look at the idea that's supposedly getting traction, according to Rob Manfred, the Major League Baseball commissioner, and that is the idea of the golden at-bat rule. We're going to look at Scott Boras, and we're going to talk about, did he learn his lesson from last year? We're going to talk about what lesson he should have learned and how he's adjusted this year. And you're kind of smiling already. I brought this up to some friends of mine last couple of days, and they're like, really, all those guys are Boris clients? And I was like, yeah, yes, they are. So we'll talk about that here in a second. And the last thing that we will talk about after I'm going to throw in a fun fact about the Los Angeles Dodgers, because next week we are going to dive into their deferred money. And can Major League Baseball, or should Major League Baseball, put a cap on how much deferred money a team can offer, or a team should have altogether on their team? Wait till you hear the stats. Wait till you hear how much deferred money that the Dodgers have. And I think you may agree with me. Major League Baseball needs to do something about the deferred parts of these contracts. But lastly, what we're going to look at is there's actually an arrangement between the Commissioner's Office and the Major League Baseball Players Association that every year about this time they release the findings that they have done on Major League Baseball players. We have those, and we're going to share them with you, and then we're going to talk about them a little bit here as well. So that's what we're going to do on the MLB 4-Pitch Talk for today. The price of the new Vegas A's ballpark is increasing by $250 million to roughly $1.75 billion. That's billion with a B, right? In the contract that the A's have signed, they are responsible for all the cost overruns. I think this is interesting. They're letting this ballpark overrun. They're letting it cost more than what they said it was going to, and they know that they have to pay for it, yet they're still allowing that to happen. Mitch, what does that say about the Oakland Athletics? Or they're not the Oakland, they're the Las Vegas A's now, right? Or at least they soon will be. What's that say about them and their management? And are they finally ready to spend some money, Mitch?
No, I think it means that they've made $250 million over the last few years and not had anything to spend it on. So now they can finally spend it. They're taking all the money that they saved the last 10 seasons, and have been penny pinching, and they're finally getting ready to let it go. But even I'm surprised that the as much as they're letting it run up, that's really surprising to me. I honestly would not be surprised if they find a way out of this contract. And say, you know what, this is going to be too much. We're not doing it. We'll figure something else out. That wouldn't surprise me in the least if they start getting these bills and they're like, whoa, hold on now. Now we got to think about something else, because the A's will never surprise me with how they handle money.
All right, so let's get off the Oakland part of it, and let's ask you this. Where do you like to sit when you go to the ballpark? Are you a dugout guy? Or are you a third base, first base line guy? Are you behind the plate? Do you like to sit up higher in the stands? Where do you like to sit when you go to a game, Mitch?
Yeah, I'll give you my kind of 1, 2, 3 of it. My first choice is always behind home plate, second level. I think that's kind of the best, or I won't say second level, because it's still in the 100s, but not 2 rows behind home plate. I like that, like, more elevated up there, maybe 30, 35 rows up behind home plate. You get a really good view of everything, and that, man, watching those the ball launch and off the bat and those angles is really cool. So that's my number one for sure.
Okay.
My second is actually just past the dugout on the first base line. You get a really good view of all the close plays at first base, which is always really fun. And I just really like that angle. You can still get a good view of what the catcher's doing, where they're setting up and everything. So I really like that view. And then actually my third is going to be that second level. You get a good bird's eye view there, but you're not too far removed from the action. So it's usually the club level that you get a few rows in before the suites and stuff. That's a really good spot as well. How about you?
I'm going to go with that second level, I think, first. I like to sit up and I kind of like to be angled down and be able to watch the pitcher and watch the ball come in. And I'm up there being my own umpire, strike and all that, So I do. I like that second level. I don't like to be right behind home plate, to be honest, unless I'm maybe at a spring training game or something, and I'm trying to take pictures of the guys in the on deck circle, something like that. I used to love the first and the third base lines, but they've done something that just kills me, and I can't do it anymore. And you're already smiling because you know how I am. I don't like the netting back there.
Yeah.
If you can't not pay attention to your phone and not pay attention to the game, and you get cracked in the face with a ball, then it's your own darn fault. So take the, in my opinion, I'm not going to do first and third base line again on that ground level until you take those nets away. Some of the spring training facilities, like the net only goes so far. So I'll be on the ground part. I'm going to plug Goodyear Ballpark here for a second. Goodyear Ballpark on the first base side kind of angles around as it goes towards the bullpen right there, and that spot is still on the ground, still gives you a nice sight line down the third baseline, but it doesn't put that net in front of you. I really like to sit out there and watch a game. I also love to sit. I'm going to have to be like first 5 rows of the outfield, though.
Yeah.
I like to see that ball in flight, and I kind of like to be able to catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I catch a home run ball, unless it's, something absolutely record-breaking or something like that, I'm going to toss it to a kid because I don't need to fight a bunch of other grown men for a $10 baseball. But if it comes to me and I can catch it, then the kid should be looking up because I'll toss it to one of them. So that's kind of my deal.
I agree. That was a close one for me, the outfield, and yeah, I'm in agreement. It's nice to give the ball away, but it's nice to catch it too. That's a pretty cool feeling.
Right,
so,
right. I agree. Unless it tears the hide off your hands or something, depends on how much it's screaming when it gets to you.
Yeah.
So what's your ticket limit to a regular season game? I'm not sure if you have one.
No, I've spent more than I would like to admit on some regular season games when I really want to see, whether it's somebody here in Arizona, where I want to go for the Diamondbacks. I'm also going for the visiting team, and maybe I want to sit behind home plate. I'd probably spent $120 on a ticket. But that's pretty much where I max out there. I don't care if it's second row behind home plate. If they want me to pay $150 or even just above $120, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Well, sir, I basically pay that much for the entire MLB package, and I sit on my recliner at the house and wear whatever I want. I don't have to worry about scaring people in public. Drink what I want, and it's pretty inexpensive, and eat what I want, and it's pretty inexpensive, and all that. That's, I'm a big spring training guy. I'm a big Arizona Fall League guy, as both of us are. But once the regular season comes around, I would much rather spend the money on the TV package and be able to sit at home and watch the games in the comfort of my own house than I would be to go to the actual game. So regular season games honestly don't mean a whole lot to me. Especially not like, I'm never paying $120 for a seat. I'm not sure if I'm paying $120 for me and you and two of our friends that we probably don't have to go watch a game. So if you were designing a new ballpark like what Oakland is, what would you make sure that it had that it set itself apart from all the other ballparks in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, this is a tough one, actually. I want to see where you go with this because I think we might be kind of on the same track. But I've got a few ideas here.
Okay, so I've only got one, and I've wanted to do this ever since I owned my own website a long time ago, before I ever got involved with We Like Sports and edit all their stories and put them up. And we got some great stories up there. By the way, we just put up our 1,600th story yesterday. So kudos to all of our writers in there, everyone behind the scenes that helps out with that website. We Like Sports. PC.com. Thank you all very much for reading, and for those of you who write and things like that for us. 1,600 is a pretty good number. We're creeping up on 2,000 here, so we'll get to there shortly. I want to be able to sit with smart, intelligent fans. There is nothing worse for me. That's kind of why I seek people out like yourself. We met at a ball game, right? And then we just kind of kept the friendship going and stayed in touch and went to other ball games together and stuff like that. We can sit and talk about the game to each other, and we're not retards, right? We're not like, oh, why is he walking to first? And I don't know, right? And that just bugs the tar out of me when you're sitting there and some moron saying stupid crap around you, and you smell, right? So here's what I want. I want a We Like Sports section. And there's a questionnaire that you got to fill out. And you have to get 9 of the 10 questions right, or you can't sit there because you're too stupid to sit in my seats. I only want to be surrounded by smart sports fans. I want to be able to go to a game and know there's intelligent people around me that I can have an intelligent conversation with while I'm watching the game. That's what I want. I want it to be different. I want it to be our own little section. I don't care if it's just you and me. That's fine. I just want to be able to sit there and have an intelligent conversation with somebody and not have to explain the rules of the game for half the game that I'm there.
Yeah, I like that actually. I'd pay a little extra to sit in a section like that. Man, I thought we were going to be on similar pages here, but I like that one more than this one. What I always thought would be really cool is see-through dugouts that you can sit right at the edge of them and see right through. I think that would be a really cool thing to add. Just add some glass or something so you can see right in the dugout if you're right behind them.
Maybe make them 18 and over seats or something.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be pretty neat.
I don't mind that though. I'd like to do something like that. That'd be something different.
Yeah.
The problem with something like that, and even the problem with something like that I had said too. I mean, are you going to want to do that over and over and over again?
Exactly.
Right? I think that's one of those things where you do it once or twice, and it's like, okay, the gimmick's gone now, so now I'm going to go sit in the regular seats or something like that.
I agree.
Do you like this idea of the golden at-bat rule? Let me explain to everybody, unless you want to explain it. Do you want to explain the golden at-bat rule?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. So essentially my understanding of it is that any team at any point in the game can decide that they're going to ruin their batting order and they're going to take their best hitter and send them up to the plate in whatever position game position they want. So could be the first inning, could be the bottom of the ninth. Doesn't matter if the guy just batted, they get to choose this golden at bat. They put their chosen hitter up to the plate, and it could be anyone. Mm-hmm. That's my understanding of it. Is that
and that's what I get at. That's the gist of it. I mean, there's some different things where it could be. I wrote down, does it add intrigue? Does it make the game better? And does it give a team a competitive advantage? Those were kind of my criteria at first. And then I'll be very honest with you. I listened to Spilly, Ryan Spilborg's on MLB Network this afternoon on their show Loud Outs. Boy, I'm really promoting them. A good show. It really is. I'll promote other shows. That's great. You guys gonna watch other stuff? Very intelligent show. They'd be able to pass my test and come down and sit with me in our section at the ballpark. So I like what he said, and I'm going to take this a different route than I was going to when I originally made this question because of something that Ryan Spilborg said. I'm going to add to it here a little bit. You want hope. Any sports team wants hope. When the Chicago White Sox played their first game this year, their fan base still has hope, no matter how bad the Chicago White Sox are, right? There's a chance. It's not a very, very large one, but there's a chance that they can still make the playoffs, right? They might trade for somebody at the trade deadline, and they might actually make it. I mean, I don't think anybody gave the Detroit Tigers much of a chance to make the playoffs this year, and they roared into the end, literally roared into the end of the playoffs there and got themselves a spot, right? So that's what everybody wants. That's what every fan base wants. That's what every team wants. They want hope. The golden I don't like the concept of the golden at bat. I do like the concept of the golden at bat in extra innings. Ooh, right? So you want hope. You want you're down by 5 runs or something in the 10th, and you're like, okay, well, this game's over, right? But you get the bases loaded and you're playing in Queens, and you're like, all right, Pete, come up to bat. We're down by 5. See if you can smack one over the fence, and let's tie this game and play in the 11th inning, right? So I don't like you messing with the game too much. I saw a tweet from somebody else. I've been looking at a lot of stuff with this, and one guy made a lot of sense on Twitter. I wish I could remember who it was. Bruce Spalding, I think, who said, if you want to watch a baseball game with gimmicks, the Savannah Bananas play in Savannah, Georgia.
Yep.
I understand 100% what he's saying, right? I don't want my baseball to be filled with a bunch of gimmicks and a bunch of other stuff. Now, do I like the Savannah Bananas, and do I like that concept? I do. But it's kind of like our things at the stadium, right? We'll go see the Savannah Bananas once, twice, maybe 3 times. And okay, now the newness is wore off, and it's okay, whatever, right? They dance around and act like idiots and play baseball. Okay, cool. I want a traditional baseball game. But if you're going to give me something in extra innings that makes me perk up a little bit, that makes me sit on the edge of my seat a little, okay. And here I even went further. The average team last year played 14 extra inning ball games. So if you're going to do this golden at bat, and it's going to affect the team 14 times in a 162 game season, gives me a little bit of intrigue, gives me a little bit of hope. Okay, I'm fine with it, but don't put it in there to where I can do it in the 3rd, whether I can do it in the 7th, or no. I don't want my game to be filled with a bunch of gimmicks, because next you're going to have trap doors at first base that players can fall down and all kinds of stupidness, right? No. But if you want to give it to me in extra innings, okay. What do you think, Mitch?
I actually completely agree with that. I think, you take away the ghost runner and you replace it with the golden at bat in extra innings. I like that a lot more than I like this added runner at second base in extra innings. I think that's a lot more exciting, and it's a lot more fun. I completely agree. I also completely agree. I don't want them adding this in the first 9 innings, no matter what. Baseball is the greatest game ever. I think we both agree there and believe
Amen.
that. And I mean, it doesn't need to be changed. I think exactly like you said, it's a gimmick. I like the Savannah Bananas as well, but I like them as a sideshow. I like them as, a one-off thing. If every game in Major League Baseball was played like the Savannah Bananas, I would not be watching almost every game like I do.
Right.
I wouldn't care to tune in. I wouldn't care to, I'll catch the highlights and see them doing these dumb dances and making backflip catches. I'll catch the highlights, but I'm not going to be hanging on every pitch like I am. And what makes Major League Baseball so great. So, yeah, I don't like the idea. I think it's just another way that Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball is trying to appeal to people that aren't real baseball fans, that they're just trying to get a few more eyes on, and I really don't like it. To be honest, I think one of the most exciting things about baseball is when you have guys at the bottom of the order step up and carry your team to a win that you're not expecting.
Right.
You expect 3 and 4 hitters and your leadoff hitters to do the damage. But when you're getting production out of your 8th and 9th guys in big moments, those are some of the most electric moments you're going to find on the baseball field.
Yep.
And I think that's what makes Major League Baseball so great. So taking that away, to send Shohei or Freddie Freeman up there in the 9th inning, I just don't like it.
Yeah, I'll make another comparison. The home run derby does the magenta ball at the very end, right? Usually for that final out. And if they just went through and they had 100 baseballs in the in the bin where the pitching coach is grabbing the baseballs and throwing them up there, and they threw 20 of them were the magenta balls, and you're not allowed to look. You just reach in and grab a ball, and it's like, oh, look, a magenta ball. That's a gimmick. It's I don't like it. You want to do it at the end. You want to give me hope to where the magenta ball, if you smack it over the fence, will give you 3 runs instead of 1 run, and then you can start to climb back into the contest. And therefore, as a fan, you think, okay, there's still a chance. I've still got hope. We might not lose this game.
Yeah.
Or they might be able to come back in this home run derby or whatever it is. Then I'm okay with it. I just don't want it to be a gimmick that happens every single game.
I agree.
All right. Has Scott Boras learned his lesson from last year? Remember, he had 2 pitchers, Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell, who did not sign. They went all the way into spring training and everything else, and their seasons were not very good. I don't know if you've noticed this or not. And in fact, well, I do know that you've noticed because it's on the notes in front of you. But Scott Boras has had 5 pitchers that he had on the free agent market already signed. Blake Snell signed with the Dodgers, 5 years, $182. Kikuchi signed with the Angels, 3 years, $63 million. Frankie Montas signed with the Mets, 2 years at $34. Matthew Boyd signed with the Cubs, 2 years at $29. And Nick Martinez signed with the Reds, 1 year, $25.05 million. That was the qualifying offer. So he's learning. I think we can both shake our heads and say, yeah, he learned from his mistakes last year, right? Jordan Montgomery ripped him apart at the end of the season and dropped him as his representation and switched to somebody else, right? That's how upset he was at him. But here I want to ask you about these 5 contracts. Which of these contracts will the team regret? The Blake Snell, the Frankie Montas, Nick Martinez, Yusei Kikuchi, or Matthew Boyd? Which one do you think will be regretted by the team that signed?
Honestly, I think all of them have the potential to be a regret. I think the one that teams are going to regret the most is actually the Yusei Kikuchi, the Angels at $63 million. I think that's going to be nowhere near worth what they think it is. The Blake Snell is a close second, 5 years, $182 million. The Dodgers have money to just throw away into a fire, so I don't think they'll regret. And kind of the same thing with Montas to the Mets. They have plenty of money. They won't miss that stuff, even if they are terrible contracts. And that's why I think the Angels are going to regret this one the most, because that's a lot of money for a guy who's shown signs that he's already kind of declining.
Yeah, I'm going to put the Kikuchi contract a second. I don't think Frankie Montas is worth basically $17 million a year.
Yeah.
And he has an opt-out at the end of the first year. If you look at his contract, I was examining some of the stuff that's in these contracts, and like I said, we're going to talk about the Dodgers. There's over $60 million deferred in that Blake Snell contract, and we're gonna really hit that hard next week as far as baseball and this deferred money stuff. But I agree with you. Now, I do know that the Mets have plenty of money to burn, but I think their fan base will kind of turn against them, kind of like they did last year. I mean, didn't they learn their lesson with the 2 old guys, that they ended up trading away and they're still paying for them, right? And Scherzer and Verlander. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, they should have learned their lesson with that, but obviously they did not. And then which of these contracts I think will be the best? And it's not just because it's the Reds and I'm a Reds guy. It's because it's a 1-year contract. You can sign a bad 1-year contract and it's just for 1 year, and you can be like, okay, you made a mistake, you're out, right? So I think that's the one that will have the least likelihood of being a bad contract. So I think that one will be probably the best contract of any of these that were signed in the offseason. What do you think about which one will be the best?
Yeah, I'm with you there, especially because of the 1 year. And if they use Nick Martinez as a true starter instead of the flip-flop guy that they were this year, I think that'll be a good contract. That would actually be, it'll help them both. It'll help the Reds win this year, and it'll also help Nick Martinez get a bigger contract next year. So I actually agree with that. I think both sides will be happy with that if they use them correctly.
All right, so before we talk about the results from the drug testing here by the Major League Baseball Players Association and the Commissioner's Office, I want to give you this tease for our talk next week on the LA Dodgers, and I want to tell you this. I'm glad you're sitting down because both of us are out here on the West Coast. We see this division, and we're trying to say, okay, can anybody challenge the Dodgers? The Dodgers' current rotation has won 5 Cy Young Awards, and their current starting lineup has 5 MVPs in it. Really, can you challenge that? I mean, come on. It's a little ridiculous. I'm starting to call them the Yankees of the West Coast. So, we'll see what all happens there. We'll tease that a little bit. We'll talk more about the Dodgers and what they're doing to Major League Baseball next week when we talk about their deferred money. Last thing that we will do today, once again, Mitch, tell us about our YouTube channel, where people can find us at there on YouTube, buddy.
Yeah, you'll find us at the 643 and Out Pod on YouTube. You can follow along, like and subscribe there, leave some comments. And yeah, it'll be posted up there right after we finish taping here.
Right. We're live on YouTube as well. We're live right here on X or Twitter or Twix or whatever you want to call it. We appreciate all the people who have stuck with us. I don't think there's been a single person leave us, buddy, and it's almost 2 hours into this. So I know you keep telling me over text, like, okay, Valentine, shut up. Shorten this thing down some. Man, our fans are telling us they like us, so I want to keep talking. We got one more, all right? All right, here's our last question. Per the agreement between the Commissioner's Office and Major League Baseball Players Association, here are the results from the drug screenings that began at the beginning of the 2023 offseason, and they ran through the 2024 postseason. So they did test people in spring training, and they did test people in the postseason, just so everybody knows. All players that were tested were on the 40-man roster, so they didn't. This is not minor league testing or anything like that. This is 40-man roster testing. So here are the numbers, and I think some of these will surprise you, and they surprise me, and I think they'll surprise some of the people out there who are listening to us right now. Total tests, 11,609, which to me does not sound like a whole lot, knowing how many Major League Baseball players there are. 40 on the team. You know, we all know how many teams there are, and we can do the math in our head, and you're like, okay. I didn't think that was very many tests. I thought there would be a lot more, to be very honest with you. 9,455 of them were urine samples. That's a lot of the 11,609. So as a correctional officer, I give urine tests to people who were trying to catch do bad things all the time. It's not hard to beat a urine test, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you know what you're doing. These guys are majorly, and I'm not trying to say that they're cheating. I'm not. I'm just trying to say that if you are cheating, you're going to want to try to beat the system. And to be very honest with you, it's not extremely hard. And these are prisoners we're talking about. They have very limited things they can get their hands on to beat these tests. Major League Baseball players have all kinds of stuff they can get their hands on. So I'm not trying to say that they're a bunch of cheaters. I'm just saying that I think you can work your way around a urine test pretty easy if you are cheating. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Blood is 2,154. Not very many blood tests whatsoever. And the blood tests, I didn't know this, and I need to do a little more research on this. So Bob Nightingale put this out. This is where I got this from. Great baseball writer, works for USA Today, one of the people that we follow on our Twitter account at the 643 and Out Pod. In his analysis, he said blood for HGH only. So I assume, and this is an assumption on my part because I haven't got a chance to research it yet, that the blood tests are only trying to detect human growth hormone, which is not what I thought the blood tests were going to be as a fan's perspective. I always thought the blood tests were checking everything.
Yep.
And I don't understand if you're going to take somebody's blood and you're going to send it. They send all these to the UCLA clinic somewhere over at the college, I believe, and that's where they take these samples to, and that's where they do all the testing and stuff on them. it'd be kind of like if you and I went to the doctor and mentioned the doctor was like, okay, I'm going to take 4 or 5 pints of blood from you, right? But I'm only going to check for one thing. I'm not going to check for everything else, right?
Yep.
No, I want you to check for everything.
Yep.
Right? You're gonna poke me and take my blood. I want you to. I don't like needles as it is, and you're gonna take the blood. Why don't you just check for everything? And it makes me a little suspicious when they say that they only check for HGH when they do blood tests. So they had 2 positive findings. I know one of them was Noelvi Marte for the Cincinnati Reds. He got suspended this year. I don't know who the other one was. There were 65 exceptions granted. I see you shaking your head already. This is probably going to be a point of topic for us, right? There were 65 exceptions granted. So that means after they took the test, the ball player said, hey, I'm on this particular drug, and it's going to pop up in this test. So I need an exception granted on this drug, even though it's on the banned substance list. So 65 exceptions were granted, and 61 of those 65 were ADHD medications. What do you want to talk about here, Mitch? I thought these findings were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, I completely agree. The fact that an overwhelming majority of these are urine samples, which anybody on the street can go in and get something to beat a urine sample, is absolutely dumbfounding to me. It seems like all of this is done completely wrong. Not only are they testing majority urine samples, which are hugely fallible and beatable, but the blood samples that they're taking, they're only testing for HGH. There's plenty other performance-enhancing drugs that they can and should be testing for. They have the blood. It's not like they have to take additional blood or additional samples. Just test for everything that is a performance-enhancing drug. And that can be a lot of different things. One of those things, especially in baseball, would be something that affects your attention span and your ability to focus, and your receptors in your brain, which ADHD medication impacts directly.
Yep.
I want to know every one of those 65 exceptions, who they were granted to and why they were granted. That's what stands out to me the most here. I really think that this is a huge loophole, and I guarantee you those 65 exceptions just so happen to be some of the best players and hitters in Major League Baseball, because that is a huge advantage to get that extra little quick twitch when you're up at bat, to know, to recognize balls, to recognize curve, anything like that. That's a huge advantage, and it just seems like they're doing this for show, to say that, we're drug testing, we're doing all this to make sure nobody's cheating, but they're giving guys a clear out with the urine samples, and then even more of a clear out when they're granting exceptions. Just doesn't really make sense to me. Seems like it's more for the song and dance than anything.
Do you think as a fan that you deserve to know who those 65 guys are?
I think it's tough because you really can't share medical data or history.
HIPAA violations, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where it gets tough. But I would be interested, to know how many of those guys were on this medication before making it to the pros, how many of them were on it in the minor leagues or even in college and in high school, or how many of these guys did it come out of nowhere when they needed to be able to hit major league hitting. I think that would be really interesting to know. I don't think we ever will, but I do think that would be some good insight to have there.
So would you be upset if the MVP got an exception for ADHD?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah?
I think it's an advantage. I really do. I think it's a huge huge help to your focus and your energy. It can make a huge impact when milliseconds make a difference. And then for a bit, for a second.
All right. I'm going to turn that off because it's hard to hear you with the music in the background. I don't know. I'm doing something wrong here. I don't want to drown you out, buddy. I agree with you. And here's the other thing that I don't get. Performance-enhancing drugs are a big thing in sports, no matter what sport you're talking about. But is baseball burying this? Do you know how hard I had to dig to find this out? And I don't know of anybody else that's talking about it but us and Bob Nightingale. And Nightingale tweeted it out at like 3 a.m. or something like that, right? MLB doesn't have a story about it up. I haven't seen any other blogs or any other podcasts or anything talking about it. I just kind of happened into it. I was reading, that the results would be put out there. They would be made available, and I had to search. I didn't find them on the first page when I Google searched it. Right, I had to dig and dig and dig to get this information, and it just makes me suspect. Right. I don't know. I'll leave it at that. It makes me suspect. Does it make you suspect? Or you? I don't know.
The whole thing, every step of the way. The lack of testing, which I agree, it's a low number in my opinion. The amount of blood samples alone, what was it, 2,100? That's less than 100 blood samples per team on a 40-man roster for 162 games.
2 games, yep.
And that's, it's extremely low to me. They're not checking for the things that I think they should be checking for. They're granting exceptions for things that I would imagine they probably shouldn't be. The whole thing just seems really fishy, and like they want to look like they're doing something or want to say that they're doing something without really doing anything.
Now, let me give you another piece, because I was reading the agreement. It's a very long, very daunting agreement that they have between the two of them. It's a few hundred pages long. All right. So I kind of skimmed through and was reading bits and pieces of it. There is no rule that says you can't test the same person on the same team over and over and over. So if you've got somebody that is clean, and the tester guy comes in, he's like, okay, who are we testing today? We're testing Joe over here. Well, we tested Joe last week. He was clean. Yeah, I know. We're testing Joe again this week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, okay. I guess we'll test Joe again, right?
Yep.
There's nothing that says you can't test the same guy as many times as you want.
Yep.
All it says is you have to test someone every so often.
They've given them every loophole they can, and there's still people failing. So,
yeah. All right, buddy. Hey, it's 2 hours, 7 minutes, 42 seconds right here. We thank everybody for being with us. I don't want to do the closeout music because it kind of drowns us out, because I don't know what I'm doing with all these equipment yet. I will do my best to get everything put together. I bought some new stuff, and it looks pretty sitting over there doing nothing right at the moment, but it looks pretty. So we'll get everything put together. We will continue to make this a better show for us and for you as we get more viewership and we spend a little bit more money and keep getting some more things. I know that we're going to do some different stuff with YouTube. Mitch is going to start doing some shorts and stuff for us as well. We're on Facebook right now as well. You can catch us if you're a Facebook person. When we get off the air, I'll upload it to Facebook within the next 10 minutes or so once we say goodnight to everybody. And we're on 3 different platforms now, and we're going to increase that as it moving forward as well. So, Mitch, I appreciate you, buddy. I'll let you have the floor here for the end before we do our saying, and say bon voyage to everybody.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The only thing I have to say is last night I was out at dinner and I saw a content creator for baseball. His name's Eric Sims. He's the @King of JUCO. I don't know if you've seen his stuff. He does a lot of just baseball content, just weird stuff. Trying to, hit baseball with some plywood or whatever it is. Good content. So I saw him out when I was at dinner, and then I also saw a guy that I know. I recognize this guy's face, and I know he's in Major League Baseball. I know it for a fact. Couldn't think of his name. He looked a lot like Nick Martinez with the beard. And one of these days, it's going to come to me, and I'm going to see his face somewhere in a game, and I'm going to remember it. But until then, I'm just not going to be sleeping. But yeah, I know for a fact I've seen him in Major League Baseball. And yeah, that's still eating me alive. But yeah, I'll find him one day.
All right, so we just finished Thanksgiving. I've already got one present for you. I'm going to send it to you. How about we do this when we do our Christmas our Christmas episode? How about we open the gifts that we got for each other live on the air? How about that?
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
All right. So now I got to up my game, and I got to ask my wife what I should get you now. I'm not a real great gift giver. Ask her; she'll tell you.
Yeah, same here.
So. All right, we may get we may have some kooky stuff for each other, but by golly, it'll be funny live to open it all up. So
yeah.
Okay, bud. Hey, I wanna thank you. I want to thank all of our fans. I want to thank you guys for telling us by your viewership that this is something that you have interest in and you will continue to watch. We appreciate that. And as we have always said, the only thing that's fair in life is a baseball hit between the third and the first base line. Good evening, everyone.